In the three-row family crossover space, Subaru has definitely struggled over the years with keeping buyers from something like a Forester and Outback from upgrading to a different brand when they needed a larger vehicle. Now, 2 years ago, the company introduced that car, the Ascent, back in 2019. When I first tested the Ascent, I found it to be practical, to be comfortable, to be capable. It had all the qualities that make a Subaru a Subaru. So for 2021, the Ascent basically stays the same, and Subaru has sent me over a limited trim, which is one trim below the touring model. It stickers for around $43,000. Of course, it comes standard with all-wheel drive, a 2.4-liter turbocharged engine. And we're gonna spend a week with the Ascent. We're gonna do some 0 to 60 timing. We're gonna see if this car is still worth a look if you guys are looking for an affordable, practical, three-row family hauler. Now, normally this is the part where I tell you about all the changes that the company has made to a vehicle for 2021. However, as you can see, the Ascent basically stays the same, which is a good or a bad thing. I personally think the Ascent is a great car, but it's also a little bit of a boring car when you look at it from the outside. And as you can see, painted in Abyss Blue Pearl, this is definitely one of my more favorite colors from Subaru, especially if you're gonna go for this vehicle. And just like when I first saw it about 2 years ago, this still looks like a bloated up version of an Outback or a Forester. That's exactly what Subaru went with. It's a nondescript looking car. The headlights, I think Subaru could probably improve the look by making this kind of like a blacked out finish or a darkened finish. They did make full LED headlights standard for 2021. They have the swiveling adaptive feature with auto high beams. You have a daytime running light here that's a C shape, an incandescent turn signal, LED low and high beams, and then LED fog lights here if you guys go for the higher trims of this vehicle. Also, the chrome on this vehicle is a little bit excessive. I think a lot of people would prefer if Subaru blacked out the chrome trim by offering a sport model or a black appearance package. So I really hope the company decides to go that route in the coming years. You can see the wheels on this one here, being the limited, are 20-inch wheels wrapped in 245 with tires. The wheels themselves are a perfectly fine design, but again, a black finish or a slightly different color would make them look a lot better. You of course have the cladding on this vehicle that you expect on most crossovers, and the Ascent still continues to offer 8.7 inches of ground clearance, which makes it one of the higher ground clearance numbers in the segment. And at 197 inches long, this is about the same length as all the other mid-size three-row crossovers. So unlike the Tribeca, which was too small, this is finally the right size. Although from this angle, you can tell the Ascent is not quite as wide as most of its competitors at 76 inches wide. That does translate into a nimbler feel out on the road, but it also means a little bit less cabin space inside. Now, one thing I don't like all this black plastic here in the bumper. You can actually take this off, I believe, to reveal the tow hitch. This will tow a maximum of 5,000 pounds. You do have dual chrome exhaust tips. There's a chrome strip here again that would look better if Subaru would offer this to be blacked out. And in terms of the cargo area, the Ascent is pretty much competitive with the third row seats up. You're looking at around 17 cubic feet of space. Fold down the third row, which they make it fairly easy to do so. Just pull on that strap over there and then just push the seat down. You get around 43 cubic feet of space with the second row still up, but the third row down. If you fold down the second row, Subaru says you'll got around 86 cubic feet of space. So pretty good numbers. The load floor is almost completely flat, which I like. There is a little bit of under floor storage over here where you can put the cargo cover, which is definitely nice. So again, a lot of families are going to like what the Ascent has to offer. They just need to do something about the exterior look. Now, the minimal changes on the outside carry over to the interior of the Ascent for 2021. In fact, if you guys don't like the brown interior that comes standard on the Touring, this is the trim you're going to want to get in limited, because I have a beige leather. You can also take your pick between a black leather. This beige leather with the Abyss Blue is a really nice color combination. And the leather itself is not the premium Napa leather, but it feels pretty high quality, and the seats are dual power. There also are memory seated, or there's two-person memory seats on the driver's side, and they're also heated, and you get a heated steering wheel. Now, the dashboard, you can see, is completely unchanged for 2021. You still have the 8-inch Subaru Starlink infotainment system. The seats, like I said, the only thing that's missing are just cooled seats. You get 3-level heated seats, heated steering wheel, memory seats, dual power seats, 4-way on this side, an 8-way plus lumbar on this side, but no cooled seats. So that's something you're going to give up by not going for the Touring grade. When I shut the door has a nice solid sounding thunk, which is, again, great for impression of quality. The button to fire up the engine is over here. You can see the gauges still do a nice sweep. These are very traditional analog style gauges with a very small helper screen. You have a little eyebrow display over here and another 8-inch display over here. As you can see, Android Auto and Apple CarPlay is included, not wireless. And again, Subaru for some reason doesn't offer the bigger 11.6-inch screen that you get in the Outback. The horn, it's actually a really loud horn. That's what I would like to call an FU horn. It's very, very immersive when you honk the horn on this vehicle. And in terms of the materials, it's practically the same as the last one that I showed you. It's got fake stitching on the upper part. It's soft touch, some fake silver painted plastic. This is a real leatherette material on the dash with some real stitching over there. The steering wheel itself is a manual tilt and telescoping adjustment, offers a good amount of adjustability. You can get really comfortable in this car, which is important. A lot of buttons on the wheel. You have your heated wheel button over here, which is, again, nice that it's included on the Limited. This is a soft touch plastic. There's auto one touch up and down for the front windows. However, the rears are not one touch. More padding, of course, over there. You have some buttons over here for your blind spot monitoring. You can open and close the tailgate. Over there. I'm not going to go too much into detail with this. When I put the car into reverse, you can see just a regular 360 camera. No trajectory. I was surprised to see that. You do have reverse automatic braking. You have parking sensors. No front camera is included on the Limited. So again, that's another thing you're going to give up by not going with the touring grade. You can control the way that screen looks by pushing this button, showing you all different kinds of different applications and sources. You even have weather. You have your all-wheel drive system indicator, the radio information, your trip computer. You have tri-zone climate control. You can see there's a nice big empty button over there where the cooled seat would go. This area here was where you could put your phone. My iPhone 12 Pro Max practically takes up all of the space in there. No wireless phone charger. I believe it's a dealer accessory. You have 2 USB ports. Your X mode over here, you can see you can kind of adjust some of your drive modes. It adds a downhill assist control feature. This is for your CVT transmission, electronic parking brake. You can see the key fob. Unchanged, smart key access is included on the Ascent. Padded armrest over here, deep storage well, which is great. Slightly a little bit of storage over there. And then the glove compartment, you can see it's a bin style. It's damped and it's lined with felt. So overall, cabin still feels comfortable. It's a little bit more on the narrow side compared to some of the competitors. I feel a little bit more, with space in something like a Telluride or an Atlas, but overall, still a great interior. And on the Limited grade, you can see, love this pano roof. Spans the entire second and third row, lets in a lot of light into this very open and airy cabin. Now for you families out there, I want to show you again the second and the third row seat of the new Subaru Ascent. You can see this Limited model comes with the captain's chairs. A lot of you really like the captain's chairs option. That does, of course, limit your seating capacity to 7 versus the 8-passenger model that you get with the bench. But again, the seats themselves offer plenty of space. In fact, there's 38.5 inches of legroom in the second row. And as you can see, as I get inside this vehicle at 5'7", I am extremely comfortable in this car. It has a ton of space, ton of headroom, a ton of legroom, and I also love that big pano roof. Closing the door, you can see the Limited also includes these manual sunshades or privacy shades, which is great. It's nice that you don't have to go to the top of the line touring to get that. You also have 2 level heated seats in the second row, which is great. Like I said before, tri-zone climate control, 2 USB ports over there, although they are the older USB A-type ports. I thought that was going to flip up to reveal a power outlet, but it doesn't. You can see there's the cup holders there. You have 2 map pockets. The seats themselves, they do adjust, slide forward and back. So there's a little handle here. I can slide them forward and back. You can also fold them down. The armrest here is slightly adjustable, which is nice. There's a good amount of floor space here. You can see the floor is completely flat, which is great if you guys have the 8-passenger version. Now, the seat is all the way back right now. I'm going to actually get into the third row of this vehicle because the third row, Subaru says, can accommodate adults back here. Now, let me slide over behind the seat. As I mentioned earlier, this is with the seat all the way back. My knees are practically in the actual seat back. Some competitors offer a little bit more space. In fact, I believe there's around 31 inches of legroom back here. So it's not wonderful. I would ask this passenger to move their seat up, which would eat into their space, sadly. Now, materials are all hard touch plastic, which as expected, but you can see there's 2 cup holders right here. There are 2 USB charging ports over on that side, which is nice. Lots of cup holders, lots of storage. The pano roof, as you can see, doesn't come into the third row, but you do have some speakers back here because I have the premium 14-speaker Harman Kardon stereo, which does sound good. So overall, very roomy cabin, but just keep in mind the third row is still mostly reserved for kids. Even somebody short like myself has a tough time getting comfortable in this vehicle unless you move this front seat up a little bit. Now underneath the hood of the Ascent, things have not changed again. You have a 2.4 liter turbocharged Boxer 4. It's a flat 4, of course, making the same 260 horsepower and 277 pound-feet of torque. Now the engine, as you can see, sits nice and low. That helps to lower the center of gravity. It only comes with a CVT, a linear-tronic CVT transmission, and of course symmetrical all-wheel drive is standard. That's what we've come to expect from a lot of modern Subarus. Fuel economy is rated on this one at 20 in the city, 26 on the highway. Regular gas is actually the recommended fuel. The smaller 18-inch wheel model will go up to 21, 27. And if you guys go for this trim or a premium trim and up, you'll get a maximum towing capacity of around 5,000 pounds. The vehicle weighs in at just under 4,500 pounds. Now, when it comes to three-row family crossover vehicles, Subaru had a very rough start in the beginning, of course, with the B9 Tribeca. You guys, of course, remember that vehicle. And when the company said that they learned from the mistakes of that car and introduced the Ascent a few years ago, we could clearly tell that Subaru was designing this vehicle for a American market. It's much larger, as you guys know. It's way more comfortable. It has just way more practicality on the inside. And after 2 years on the market, Subaru sent me over this Ascent. It's an Ascent Limited. Of course, this comes standard with the 2.4 liter turbocharged engine, still standard with their symmetrical all-wheel drive. It still has 8.7 inches of ground clearance. So this car is every bit a Subaru. Unfortunately, I think over the last couple of years, I don't particularly think the Ascent has aged very well on the outside and the inside. As you guys saw on the outside, the exterior still has a very bloated Forester Outback look to it. It's very nondescript. It's very ordinary looking, which is not a bad thing. Some people may want that in their family crossover. The interior of this car, you know, the screen here is definitely looking a little bit small. This is the older 8-inch Subaru Starlink infotainment system. I'm surprised they have not put the larger 11.6-inch screen from the Outback in this car. They should. I'm imagining Subaru may do that probably in the next couple of years or so. But let me start with showing you guys a quick 0 to 60 for this vehicle, because I want to test out Subaru's claim here. 7.7-ish seconds is what it should get. Let's just try flooring it from a stop here. Now, my first run, it's showing 7.55 seconds. 7.5 seconds is definitely a little bit slower than Subaru's claim. The CVT in this vehicle kind of mimics shifts. It's kind of, you know, slowing down the 0 to 60 time when it does that. The good news is you feel a lot quicker response when you're just kind of driving. Like if I put my foot down here, you feel that shove of torque. 277 pound-feet is a good amount of torque for this vehicle. And the CVT is relatively responsive. It just doesn't need to, you know, mimic gears. There is no sport mode for this vehicle, sadly. But let's try another 0 to 60 run, because I do want to see if I can get a slightly better number here. And we'll try brake torquing it a tad. Wow. So when I brake torqued it there, it didn't actually mimic shifts, which is good. And as a result, look at that change in the 0 to 60 time, 6.1 seconds there. Nearly a second and a half quicker, and that's impressive. That number is impressive. This will smoke a Pilot, it'll smoke a CX-5 or 9, it'll smoke a Highlander. And that really shows you that the CVT and this 2.4 liter turbo provide excellent performance when you're not doing the silly mimicking of the gear shifts. I mean, Subaru programs it there because enthusiasts like to complain, we don't like CVTs, but when it performs and behaves like a CVT, clearly there's the result. 6.1 seconds is pretty fast for a family crossover. Now, of course, people who buy these things aren't going to be drag racing it, but you'll be happy to know that the Ascent is pretty peppy. The performance is good in this vehicle, and I think a lot of people are going to like that. Now, the other thing the Ascent excels at is just overall driving feel. Unlike most of its competitors, this continues to feel like a smaller crossover. It's very similar to the Mazda CX-9. The steering is very quick, very darty actually. The suspension is rather soft in this vehicle, so you feel like you move around a lot. But The Ascent, because it's about 2 inches narrower than most of its competitors, it gives you a sense of playfulness that you don't get, from some bigger vehicles like the Kia Telluride, the Volkswagen Atlas, the Honda Pilot. This actually feels smaller to me still than the Toyota Highlander, which is not, that big of a vehicle. It's on the smaller end of the segment. And also, in addition to feeling a little bit smaller and sportier, this is one of the fewer 3-row crossovers that gives you some off-road capability. I mean, there are no skid plates underneath this vehicle, but with 8.7 inches of ground clearance, you do have about an inch more ground clearance than most of the competitors, and you have an excellent all-wheel drive system, a great turbocharged engine. Driving the Ascent is much more pleasant than looking at it. I really hope Subaru considers offering a sport package, a black appearance package, something to make this thing look a little bit more standoutish, something to make it a little more appealing. It's just really nondescript, really boring looking on the outside, and that's not necessarily a bad thing for a family car. I find the seats to be really comfortable. I find the Subaru, driver assistance stuff to be relatively well, if slightly annoying. The eyesight system, as you guys know, will beep constantly every time you go near the lane markers. It'll shut its lane departure alert off, but it does work fairly well. And I also like how it has the cameras that watch the road in front of you, especially if traffic starts moving and you're not paying attention. The car will tell you to move forward so you don't get honked at from behind. And overall, it's a very quiet vehicle on the inside. Subarus have tended to be a little more noisy, but this one actually, they did a really good job with the sound deadening once you kind of get past the somewhat noisiness of the engine, which can get a little tiresome. But if you don't put your foot down terribly hard, you can see just mid-throttle here, the engine stays pretty quiet. It's only when you go above 5,000 where it really starts making its presence known. It has that boxer growl that some Subaru drivers really like. But in terms of fuel economy, 2026 is what it's rated. In my weeks for the testing on the city, it was getting around 18 mpg, not too bad. On the highway, I did get it up to 25 miles to the gallon, so not that much better than its competitors. I was hoping that the CVT would do more. I really would like to see Subaru offer an electrified option for this thing, a plug-in hybrid, a hybrid version. That's really where everybody is looking for electrification, and Subaru is a little bit behind. All they have is the Crosstrek plug-in, which is fine, if a little bit disappointing because they're using some older battery tech from Toyota, not the newest one that's in the RAV4 Prime. There are instances where I'm noticing the CVT is not the most smooth CVT. It's responsive and snappy, but like when I put my foot down, it kind of will adjust its ratios and you feel the shift. Even though this doesn't have shifts, I think Subaru does that purposely to make it feel like a stepped automatic. I mean, if I go into manual mode here, it gives me 7 virtual ratios to choose with these paddles, and it actually does a pretty good job of mimicking shifts. Like on the upshift and downshift, it actually feels like a stepped automatic, which is not really what you need to have in a vehicle like this. This is a family car. I want it to be comfortable. I want it to be quiet. But I have very little complaints driving it. From a practicality standpoint, it's nice to drive. It's quiet. It's smooth. It's quick enough. And it's just really, really practical. So families who drive an Ascent for the first time, or if you're coming from an Outback or a Forester and you drive this, you're going to like the way it drives. I would probably look at this over the current gas Highlander or a Pilot, or just a gas Explorer. But again, the Telluride, and an Atlas for sure. The Telluride, the Palisade, even the Kia Sorento, they all make for a really enticing option over something like this. And I think Subaru, if they want to, continue to have strong sales for this vehicle, they need to make the exterior styling a little bit more standoutish. So while the Subaru Ascent may not be the sexiest looking family crossover that you can buy, you cannot deny just how good this car is to drive, how capable it is off-road, and how practical it is in everyday usage. Even though it is slightly narrower than its competitors, I appreciate that because it is slightly sportier to drive, especially when you factor in that turbo engine, the responsive steering. What makes the Ascent basically so attractive is the fact that it's a Subaru. It has the kind of all-weather capability, the outdoorsy image that you expect from this company. Unfortunately, it really doesn't translate into the looks. This is a very nondescript, boring, bland mommy car on the outside that just, again, continues to look like a bloated Outback. So Subaru, if you're watching this, you could go a really long way by offering this car with a black appearance package, a sport package, just to make it a little bit sexier. I know sexy isn't what necessarily is what people are looking for in this segment, but it also sells. And that's exactly why cars like the Atlas, why cars like the Palisade and Telluride continue to do well better in terms of sales, at least on the Hyundai Kia Twins versus this model, because people are just more attracted to the looks and the interior tech. So I think once Subaru does that and offers the larger 11.6-inch touchscreen in this vehicle, like the one in the Outback, it'll go a long way to making the Ascent an even more appealing vehicle. It's still really great, but for me, it's very much a second place car. And unless you really like Subarus or you can easily snag this for a deal, unlike the Hyundai and Kia Twins, I'd easily, put those first, put this one as your second choice. It's still a great car. Now, speaking of which, if you want to buy one of these vehicles, they start at around $32,000. The limited trim starts at around $39,000. Remember, all-wheel drive is standard. My tester with the navigation and the Harman Kardon stereo option, stickers for around $43,500. $43,500 is a pretty good chunk of change. A touring version is about $2,000 more. It'll get you the cooled seats that this one's missing and the front 180-degree view camera. I'd highly recommend just stepping up to the touring grade, and you'll also get the brown leather. But other than that, at $43,000, this is a pretty good value, but just keep in mind, there are a lot of other competitors out there that look a lot better, have a little bit more interior space, and have far better tech on the inside, but you're gonna be paying a little bit more for those vehicles. So with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on this 2021 Subaru Ascent Limited. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.